After several years of winning at online freelancing and mentoring hundreds of students to do the same, there's one thing I can promise you with absolute certainty, and that is success on a freelance marketplace like Upwork doesn't happen by accident. If it did, how could the same freelancers remain on top month after month, year after year? In addition to myself, I'm talking about many others whom I've watched personally maintain a steady stream of incredibly high-quality clients while commanding top dollar for their work and securing enough repeat business to keep them busy without even an ounce of prospecting for months on end or even longer. This simply can't be luck. Luck is something that happens once or a small handful of times, like winning the lottery or making a few fortuitous stock picks. But great client after great client, year after year, clearly there's something else going on here. Nor are the winners necessarily the most educated or the ones with the most natural talent. I'm a perfect example, having started out as an online freelancer with no experience, no training, and no college degree. So we know that succeeding on Upwork isn't about luck or fancy credentials, but it does require you to think, and as a result, to act in ways that are starkly different from what most online freelancers are inclined to do. That's because winning at online freelancing is counterintuitive. I always say that the moment you try to win on Upwork by doing what seems natural, you've already lost. And yet, this is exactly what the average freelancer does. Here's one perfect example of this fundamental disconnect in action. I often advise online freelancers to aim to deliver more than their clients expect, at least early on. This is a tactical approach designed to trigger an emotional response from the client, which in turn leads them to leave you not just a good review, but one that's really amazing and helps you get more repeat business, more new clients, and even higher rates. It's a rock-solid approach that almost can't miss if executed properly. And yet, average freelancers consistently fail to see its value. They see a freelance project as a zero-sum transaction. The client pays money, and they, in turn, deliver work that meets spec. They simply haven't considered, or can't see, the long-term gain that comes from investing as little as 3 extra minutes in order to make a client say, wow, as opposed to just saying, nice work, even though it could literally raise their income by thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars per year. This is just one small example of how the best online freelancers think differently from the rest. Another way to say this is that the masses miss what professional poker players call small edges. These are recurring advantages that add up to huge rewards over time. And they're mostly invisible to amateur players who think that the point of poker is to bet, raise, or fold. In other words, the amateurs go through the motions. Yet the professionally trained player understands that the entire point of poker is to seize these small edges over and over again. And because he sees the game from a fundamentally different perspective, he finds these small edges everywhere. Something similar happens on Upwork. When an average freelancer looks at, for example, their profile overview, all they see is a text box where they can write a few facts about themselves. Big whoop, right? But top freelancers see a chance to use psychology to captivate potential clients. And they use this as a way to rise above their competitors. The same is true for their proposals and every other aspect of their business, from their profile photo to their work samples, even the way they name the files of their deliverables. They apply strategy and psychology to everything. These small edges are essential to us as freelancers. We don't have the resources of a large company. Hell, most of us don't even have the resources of a small company. We need to use every tool and resource available to our maximum advantage. And remember, these small edges can lead to some very big wins. For example, one of my best clients, who's been worth tens of thousands of dollars to me over the course of just a couple of years, hired me after a number of my small edges paid off. First, she read my proposal, which she liked. Now, I'm going to be honest. It wasn't the best proposal I'd ever written. I had very limited experience doing the type of writing she needed. But I used the principles you'll learn about in this course, which made it a little better than most of the others she'd received. From there, she looked at my profile and found reviews that were better than what she'd seen from the other candidates. Next, she read the work sample I'd attached to my proposal and found it a bit more relevant to her needs than what my competitors provided. Again, this was not by accident. Finally, she decided to try out 3 freelancers for a test project, myself included. For this test project, I charged more than double what my competitors charged, despite my lack of experience. And I got away with this precisely because of the small edges I just described. Charging that amount then allowed me to take the extra time necessary to create a well-crafted piece for this client, one that would give me the best chance of securing her business for the long term. Whereas my competitors were undoubtedly used to rushing through their work in order to justify their low rates. In this one case alone, a series of small edges led me to tens of thousands of dollars in ongoing revenue. And of course, I have many other stories that are very similar. Another thing that top online freelancers have in common is that they take deliberate action. This concept of deliberate action is one of the underlying themes throughout everything you'll find in this course. I remember a great quote from the movie Armageddon, where an oil drilling team is recruited by the US government to intercept a meteor from colliding with Earth. One of the NASA officials proudly says, "We don't leave anything to chance." That sense of meticulousness is exactly how I approach online freelancing. I don't leave anything to chance. I've got it planned out right down to the smallest detail. And it's precisely these details that almost all of my competitors take for granted or miss, to their own detriment, because they're operating under the mistaken belief that they're powerless to change their own destiny, that their actions don't matter, that we're all just here to fill out a profile, send off some proposals, and then let chance and the law of averages dictate which clients we get and in what quantities we get them. Nor are many of these people willing to do the work necessary to create a top online freelancing business. Some would rather sit around and complain on forums, saying there aren't any good clients out there, when what they really mean is that they don't know how to attract the good clients, and they don't know how to get good clients to pay them what they'd really like to earn. All of this is understandable. Winning at online freelancing isn't easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is. And especially when the going gets tough, it can be natural to fall into the trap of thinking that our actions don't really matter. This happens in all facets of life, not just work. I remember once taking my 2-year-old son to the park. On the way home, he threw a screaming fit. I tried everything to get him to stop. Nothing worked. It came to a point where I was so flustered that all I could think to do was call my wife and complain. I was unconsciously trying to commiserate with her about this lousy hand that I thought fate had dealt me at this moment. And do you know what she said? She told me to tell my son 2 simple words. That's enough. And guess what? I did it and it worked. He stopped immediately. Isn't that incredible? My wife had a simple, elegant solution all locked and loaded and ready to go. While here, I thought I was completely powerless to do anything other than listen to my son scream until he'd gotten it out of his system. Now, this same thing happens to online freelancers all the time. They hit obstacles, and in their frustration and confusion, it becomes easy to adopt a defeatist attitude. But this is all in our heads. As Henry Ford famously said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So as you go through this course and apply what you learn, I want you to know that you have full control over the fate of your freelancing business. Remember, there's no such thing as just a proposal or just an update to a client. Everything you do is either pulling high-quality clients toward you or repelling them away from you. The choice is always up to you. And every single resource and decision at your disposal, no matter how small it might seem, can be used as a tool to propel your online freelancing career forward. You need to treat everything you do like it matters, because it does. This understanding and the behavior that stems from it is the fundamental difference between the most successful freelancers on Upwork and everyone else. If you could just flip a few switches and get tons of clients that way, everyone would do it. But the top professionals are constantly focusing on deliberate action and seizing small edges at every possible opportunity. I started my freelancing business and later created this course because I believe in the power of an individual to make an impact in this world. And I want you to believe in that power too. But more importantly, I want you to believe in yourself. And I want you to act on that belief every chance you get. Thank you for watching. See you in the next lesson.